I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Lunch and Learn webinar from the Central and Southern Ohio HIMSS chapter for Wednesday, May 10th. Before I turn it over to our speakers, I would like to share some information on the chapter. During the presentation, if you have a question at any time, go ahead and enter that question into the questions feature of the GoToWebinar app. You'll just open your control panel, expand the questions, and type it in. At the end, I will read all the questions to our presenters and allow sufficient time for all those questions to be answered. Also, while you're in the GoToWebinar app, grab the handouts. You'll see 3 handouts there. Copy of this introductory slide deck, a copy of the speaker's slide deck, and the CEU forms. If you hold a CAHIMSS or CPHIMSS certification, you will receive 1 CEU for attending today's webinar. The handouts will also be posted to the CSOHIMSS webinar, or I'm sorry, the CSOHIMSS website. If you go to Events and Education down the past events, in a few days you'll find these. We're also recording today's presentation, which will be posted to the CSOHIMSS YouTube channel within a couple days. If you would like to reach out to anyone in the Central and Southern Ohio HIMSS chapter, you can go to our webpage at csohio.himsschapter.org, csohio.president, or csohio.info@himsschapter.org. We try to remain pretty active on social media and do post information about our upcoming events. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We really do appreciate our sponsors because without them we could not host our fall and spring conference and our OHIT Day event. So I want to take this time to thank all of our sponsors. Our premier level sponsors are CA Technology, HPG, IBM Watson Health, Cover My Meds, Cisco, I'm based by Highland, and Nutanix. Our elite sponsors are Spectrum Enterprise, DMI, Vocera, Encore, Metasource, Leidos, Tech Systems, and Blue Orange Compliance. We also have some more elite sponsors, the Innovative Consulting Group, RDI Corporation, Merge, DCA, Obix Perinatal Systems, Healthcare Integration Consulting Group, NIQSG, and we have a number of partner sponsors as well. We do have some upcoming events we'd like to share information about. The big one is our spring conference. The spring conference is this Friday. It's in 2 days, but there is still time to register. Jump over to the csohio.himsschapter.org website. You'll find a link over to the event page. Great speakers. This is going to be a great event. This is held at the Conference Center at OCLC up in Dublin, Ohio. I believe we've got about 250 attendees right now, and there is room for more. So please, please, please join us this Friday. We do have some upcoming Lunch and Learn webinars I'd like to share some information about. Next month on June 14th, John DiMaggio from Blue Orange Compliance will be presenting on a security-related topic. We'll try to get this finalized here in the next day or two and get it posted to the CSOHIMSS social media sites. In July, Scott Gaines from Cover My Meds will serve as speaker, and we'll get this presentation tied down as well. August 9th, Eliminating Faxing and Sharing of Clinical and Administrative Documents in Ohio in 12 Months, presented by Mr. Mike Hurley from Highland. And we need speakers. If you guys are interested in speaking, September it's EHR integration, but from October on, I need speakers. If you do have a message you'd like to share, this is a great way to earn presentation points towards towards HIMSS membership advancement. If you are, your goal is to become a senior or fellow in HIMSS, you do have to have a certain number of presentation points, and this is a good way to gain some of those. So with that, I am going to pull up the presenter's slide deck.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Scott, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the folks who are joining us this afternoon for the Lunch and Learn seminar. Excited to be here, and we're going to talk about next generation patient engagement using mobility, cloud, and big data.
Who should I give the keyboard control to?
This is Tapan. You can give it to me, please.
All right. It's all yours.
All right. Let me.
Oops, sorry. Should be able to
I
manage.
don't have it yet. There we go. All right. So yeah, this is Tapan Mehta. I'm part of Team DMI, and I'm joined today by my esteemed colleagues Thiag, Loganathan, and Murali. And we're going to take turns in talking about the next generation patient engagement. And as far as the agenda goes, give you a quick preview of the what's happening in the healthcare market, some specific dynamics as it relates to the overall patient engagement, and really walk you through what we are doing in this space around the engagement platform, which entails specifically around customer experience, data-driven model, omni-channel, as well as what's next in terms of where do we go from here today. If you look at what's happening in the market, regardless of where we are in the U.S. or outside of U.S., there are some very specific changes really transforming our industry. Everything is around personalized care. Folks are looking at how to reach out to patients on an individual basis. Workflows are being augmented in different ways and driving more efficiency, involving everyone, the patients, the nurses, the clinicians, and even the machines as we start talking about artificial intelligence. So really a big push towards, at the end of the day, enabling an outcome-based care model where today everything is around fee for value, fee for service, and organizations are looking at how do they take all these different applications, different endpoints, and integrate in driving a sustainable outcome-based model. And fundamentally, the healthcare industry can be broken down into three key pillars, as you see over here: the healthcare providers, the life sciences, the pharma industry, and the payers. And each one has its unique challenges in terms of looking at how they go about engaging with patients. From a provider standpoint, a lot of it is centered around managing costs. How do you drive efficiency in the organizations? A typical healthcare provider will today have a minimum of 150 to 200 applications that they have to use in their environment, and there's a lot of movement in trying to consolidate these applications, driving efficiencies vis-a-vis these applications around clinical, around IT aspects. And at the end of the day, really, how can the providers use these different processes and applications to drive better quality of patient care, improved access to care? And that's something that they're trying to grapple with and addressing the market. From a life science standpoint, we know about the increased competition from generics that continues, but it's really around how to engage more effectively with patients. The life science, among all these three subsegments, have historically lagged in providing and adopting technology. And there's a big emphasis in the life science industry today of engaging directly with patients, and some of the work that is being done is around developing mobile applications, mobile platforms, if you may, and really finding an effective way of bringing new drugs to the market. And on the payer side, it's all about driving efficiency, risk management, meeting employer as well as consumer expectations. And we hear a lot about the healthcare exchanges, whether it's in Obamacare or the new healthcare bill that's going to go into the Senate for changes. These problems are going to continue, and technology is going to play a critical role in helping resolve them. So when you look about the transformation that technology is going to bring, it's going to be on three axes: the people, the process, as well as the technology piece. And the whole idea is, how do you, again, provide value-based care? How do you enrich the patient experience? How do you access care from any place, anytime, and how do you provide mechanism or avenues for effective and efficient clinical trials. And this is something you want to keep your eyes out on. This is something that is going to continue regardless of the changes in healthcare policy. These are going to be some underlying factors as we go into this year and next. And there are a lot of opportunities when you look at in terms of reducing costs, improving quality of care, and driving patient outcomes. And you see some examples that we'll talk more about during the course of this presentation, everything from data analytics piece, taking structured and unstructured data and synthesizing it in a way which can be used as a knowledge at the point of care. Having integrated a healthcare platform. Again, we talked about the providers, the payers, the pharmas. How do you integrate data coming from all these different sources in a way which really makes the delivery of care a seamless process? Connected devices, something we hear about, we're going to continue to hear about, whether it's Apple Watch or Fitbit. This is something we hear in the world of IoT, the whole sensor-based technologies. These are just some of the examples that lie in front of us and really addressing an effective care model throughout the continuum of care. And here are just some examples around, if you just look at one of the providers subsegment, just kind of highlighted some of the key things around managing data. You'll learn a little bit more about it in the next few minutes. Security, patient privacy and data security is a big hot button in the industry, cybersecurity. We continue to hear about that, the breaches that are taking place in the organizations, healthcare organizations, and then looking at the alternative care models as new way of providing services, and it includes everything from telehealth to patient-centered home. They're just some of the examples that healthcare organizations are looking at and providing care. And we'll kind of shift gears over here and have my colleague Thiag going to talk about, where do we take all this different information and what do we do with it? How do we engage with the patient in an effective manner? Thiag?
Thank you, Tapan. Are you going to click slides for me, or you want me?
Yes, I can do that. Yep, I can do that.
Thank you. Yep. So so let's take an example of how in all of these different technologies and trends are coming together at State of Maryland, where they are embarking on a path to bring together the different needs and the different processes into a single integrated welfare management platform, as in the constituents of the state are being served by the state case management, the team, the different services from a single platform, consistent interface. That's the key here. Next slide, please. So when basically reimagining the need support by putting the constituent in the center, right? If you look at the healthcare world, it'll be the patient in the center. If you look at the retail world, it'll be the users, the customers in the center. In this particular scenario, the Marylander in the center, and then designing all the interactions between the care provider, the Marylander, between the payer, the partner, the provider, the Marylander, and the back office team to design the different welfare services and thresholds, plans, etc. Wherein all of this being truly integrated, we're able to leverage from the value of data and understanding how things are being used, and also speed. There's no information lost, so there's no latency of decision making, or there aren't any challenges with regards to information being lost, or there's confusions being created. Next slide, please. So if you take a step back, really current world, and this is not just with regards to the state of Maryland, this is happening across the world in most hospitals, healthcare systems can relate to this, wherein there are multiple systems for business processes. It's not easy to navigate the services being sought after. Information is siloed, not easy to access, and even internal employees, case managers or hospital workers, it's not easy for them to serve the patients or the constituents. So that leads to a lot of frustration. So knowing that being the current state, and with the goal of an enhanced customer experience, enhanced constituent experience, this kind of a platform where, irrespective of the program being consumed, the service being consumed, a consistent interface, a consistent tool, having visibility into who it is, whenever, wherever, is going to create the feeling for the case managers wherein they're confident, they're empowered, and they're able to help the constituents faster. And also, a system like that can promote higher level of self-service, in return, faster access to information, and then higher satisfaction of the patients or constituents in this particular scenario. So next slide, please. And quickly, we're going to go to a video wherein this is a prototype, not fully there yet, but a prototype of how all of this can be brought together. And there are multiple examples available in the internet, and if required, we can share some other resources which are similar implementations. A constituent-centric, very high self-service promoting engagement platform, a quick 5-minute video of this prototype. Tapan, if you can play that, please.
Scott, do you have the video uploaded, please? The link.
Yeah, I'm unable to play it if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now. The link showed up. I mean, if you click the link, it popped up in a new window, and I think we can just play that. Yeah, let's just submit. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Try this real quick. There we go.
Marylander 360, a secure and seamless state welfare management system that empowers constituents, agency staff, insurance companies, care providers, and other partners. A platform enabling residents to collaborate and engage in managing their welfare programs needs, and partners the ability to make smarter decisions through the use of analytics. Meet Chad Camerad, a Maryland resident who is a registered Marylander 360 member. Upon login, an intuitive homepage greets Chad with alerts, messages, and pending action items. Settings allow him to manage his personal and family profile, access his inbox, track his spend statistics, family health records, favorite caregivers, plans, and a private document vault. All information stored is secured and HIPAA compliant. Chad can easily browse through all the welfare and assistance programs. He can understand a program's overview, eligibility conditions, schedule of issuance, and supporting documents while being aware of his rights and responsibilities. Chad can verify if he is eligible for programs through the intuitive pre-screening process that guides him through the entire process. He can add family members and provide expense details like childcare, mortgage, medical bills, etc. Then, Chad uses the benefits enrollment tool where he applies for the programs he is interested in. This also is a guided workflow which simplifies Chad's experience. He then uploads the supporting documents through the app or existing channels. Chad's case is now allocated to a caseworker. Feedback is collected at various interaction touchpoints to improve the overall program. Chad tracks all his open cases and inquiries in one place, down to the finest historical detail. He can act upon his pending action items. Notifications are automatically generated for Chad and the agency staff. Mark Eves is a child care case manager. He receives a visual notification about Chad's CCSP enrollment case. He validates details per policy and approves the case. Through built-in case management analytics, agencies and channel partners automatically get appropriate performance insights as well as opportunities for improvement. Chad can also buy health and dental insurance in the mobile app through participating partners. He can easily see federal tax credits that he is entitled for, view, compare, and filter plans based on parameters before making a decision. After which, Chad can browse for in- and out-of-network doctors, book appointments, find cost of prescription drugs, and get timely care. Through self-service, Chad also has access to documents, content, calculators, brochures, and tools to be more self-sufficient. Providing self-service is a must-have to be able to support large populations. For ad-hoc support, Marylander 360 also offers an omni-channel help and support system where Chad can call in, request a callback, send inquiries, IM, or email. All communications are archived and can be resumed on demand. Lily Thomas is a customer care executive assigned to handle energy assistant inquiries. Upon login, she views all Chad's inquiries and responds appropriately using pre-built templates or writes a custom response. A rule-based engine embedded in the user's interface adapts to Lily over time by updating a triage playbook with user responses. Over time, responses could be auto-generated based on rules, else Lily will be notified to respond. All interactions are maintained to provide insights for personalized care management. A customer care dashboard provides insights into channel and staff performance at various granularity. John Doe, System Admin. John Doe is a system administrator. He manages assignments, roles, and responsibilities. John has a simple interface to administer the entire system intuitively. He can streamline the entire process by looking at analytics-enabled recommendations pertaining to volume, staff, time spent, FCR, etc. Chad and thousands of Marylanders will be able to access state-provided welfare and assistant needs from a single engagement platform. Marylander 360. Population welfare management simplified.
Thank you, Scott. So when you think about it, how do you bring a solution like that together? If you go to the next slide, please, Tapan. Thank you. So there are four aspects we have to think about. And the first one being the experience. We have to kind of imagine how the users are going to use the platform and then build it for the users. And data, leveraging data to make sure the right information, the right interface is being made available to the users at the right time. And these days, all solutions need to be accessible across all channels. Channels meaning in person, over phone, by your your texting, smartphones, and web, right? All channels. And then, why the technology enablers, why is it relevant? Why is it possible today compared to a few years ago? And that's an aspect. Being aware of technology is key to be able to pull solutions like this together. So next slide, please. Now, what is customer experience? How do you, build a solution where you think whatever we're going to build is actually useful, it's actually used, right? A lot of the times we see in technology that a significant part of solutions built are shelfwares. So before building, it's important to understand the three key aspects. Can this be built? Should we do it? Not just because of technology, because there's a need, and then people really want it. Are they really going to use it? So having that kind of a thought process will help. Next slide, please. And how do we get there? The key element is a lot of the times technology programs. There's a huge gap between the source or the people who understand the problem and the team which is building the problem. So it's very important to have a common understanding of the problem. And then before people start to build it, it's important to kind of create prototypes, concepts, have it tested, validated. I mean, testing and validation is very, very key across all the phases. So have multiple prototypes, have them tested, validated, and that really creates the scope of the solution, and then that gets built iteratively over a period of time. And that kind of an approach will help reduce errors and make sure adoption is high by having the users involved from earlier in the build cycle. Next slide, please. And how do you do that, right? And the key is spending time with the users, through research teams, and giving them an example scenarios, and having that user research conducted, developing and defining all the different personas which are involved. In the state perspective, there are different type of constituents. There are case workers, there are plan admins. Having those personas defined in the case of a hospital system, the patient, the patient's family, and even the patient's demography, can create different type of personas. Then you have the support system, hospital workers, back office, doctors. So having all those personas identified, and then how does each of these persona go through a specific particular process or a need or a service, and understanding this journey, bringing all of this together is what's going to create the solutions or concepts for the solutions. Next slide, please. So if you kind of think about the way to build next-gen solutions, do more prototyping instead of traditional documentation heavy. There's not a lot of patience these days, and even documentations can create mistakes. So visuals and interactive prototypes can validate requirements a lot better than tech documentations. And then more and more sprints related to understanding and concepts, not focusing on technology, focusing on experience. Another area key being, let's focus on the outcomes and not necessarily output. Nobody gets an award these days for building a great product if it doesn't get used and if it doesn't produce the desired outcome. And one of the key benefits of a platform like this is the ability to leverage data close to real time and then change processes, recommendations, insights real time, so that we are able to support faster decision making at the edge, not just in the back office, but decision making by the users, decision making by the patients, the consumers, the constituents. So that is the type of customer experience methodology which is going to help set the stage for a platform like this. And then next, to talk about data-driven, we're going to have Murali talk about it.
Hello everybody, Murali here. So just building upon the use case that Thiag highlighted about the constituents, I'd like to give an example of a data-driven approach in the specific context. So if we go on to the next slide, so what are some of the key questions that need to be addressed and answered when trying to analyze constituents? So step one begins with really trying to understand what is the makeup of the constituent population, what are their demographics, what are the various segments or clusters of constituents with distinct profiles. Once we establish that, then step two is to really understand what are the spends and costs incurred across these various segments, and what are these costs incurred across the various types of services that are being offered and used. And lastly, how do we utilize all of this data to provide actionable insights to enable and drive independence from support for the constituent population. So let's take a look at a data-driven approach in the next slide. So here we kind of summarize the overarching approach to analyze constituents around the context of driving and enabling independence from support. So step one really begins with analyzing the constituents and creating distinct profiles and segments or clusters of constituents across dimensions like services and types of financial assistance used. Representative clusters could look like new or repeat constituents or permanent beneficiaries. There could also be a segment that would constitute potentially fraudulent transactions or claims, and also potentially economically disadvantaged constituents. So once we establish these distinct segments of constituents, step two would be to really analyze and mine the profiles of these constituent segments across dimensions like age, income, gender, geo, and so on. Lastly, how do we use all of this data to provide insights around proactively managing and prioritizing spend across all of these segments, and then looking at past historical trends to identify the paths, the most likely paths to drive and enable independence from support. And lastly, potentially tweak enrollment rules as well and create a continuous feedback loop in the system in the entire analytical process. Moving on to the next slide. This slide shows a representative or a graphical view of the clusters that we spoke about in the previous slide. Typically, we would use a machine learning algorithm like k-means clustering to identify and classify the various constituents across dimensions like total cost for support and time to independence from support. Going on to the next slide, please. This is another view of the overall analytical approach that we would take for this whole data analysis process. Step one would be to really analyze historical data by identifying the key levers or drivers that are required to identify these constituents. Step two would be to create distinct clusters or segments of these constituents based on these key metrics, which would then be followed by really understanding what is the underlying makeup of these constituent populations and what are the key behavioral patterns, what are the spends across these various segments. And then lastly, how do we use all of this data and provide actionable insights around driving and recommending the most likely paths to enable independence from support. In the next slide, we have an illustrative view of the most likely path to drive and enable independence from support. So for example, constituents in a particular segment who are under the food supplemental program, 60% of them could be receiving job search and placement assistance. And this would constitute a majority of the constituents who have achieved independence over a period of time. So really, how do we use historical data to come up with trends and recommend paths and actions that drives independence support? In the next slide, this is a graphical representation of how do we how do we use data to provide actionable insights around enabling independence from support through various intervention programs. In a normal course of events, you would generally anticipate an X amount of time, whereas using past historical data, what are the key drivers or actions that we would identify and recommend to reduce and enable the independence from support. Lastly, in the next slide, how do we create compelling visual insights to slice and dice across various dimensions to enable data-driven decision making?
Because at the end of the day, people are more comfortable consuming information either through specific insights, actions, or through compelling visualizations. The days of pages and pages of reports are over and behind us.
Yeah. So the next section is about the omni-channel aspect, which Thiag will.
Yeah. So we spoke about how, if you can go to the next slide, please, Tapan. We spoke about how it's important to have the different stakeholders, right? In this particular example, we have the provider, we have the user, the constituent, we have the case manager, and back office workers. All of them engaging in a single platform at all times seamlessly. If you go to the next slide, please, Tapan. And another view of what we're talking about, at the end of the day, the family, the constituent, they're able to access the different assistance services provided by the state through any of the channels, right? And through any of the workers or interfaces available, or enablement interfaces available. How do you make something like this happen? In the next slide, you will see a intentionally scary visual, right? What it is looks like, it's not the world of traditional client-server type of a system anymore. There are multiple layers, multiple components which needs to come together to serve the needs of all the different players at the same time. Everybody's working on the same record. So this is just intentionally complex, but when we go into details, it's really about building components which can all interoperate using APIs and common platforms. So if you go to the next slide, please, Tapan, I'm just going to pick on a couple of boxes here and then talk about, as in, let's say there are artificial intelligence-driven chatbots, which are fairly, it's becoming prevalent now. It's a solved science. Having that solved, they're all very API and then pluggable into a platform. And then sentiment analysis type of a component module that's built, solved, you plug them in. So in essence, the different components modules get solved, but all of them operate under the same SOP so that they can all interact and then work together, wherein the user and the provider, or in this particular case, the state, they're able to meet the needs of the different stakeholders all the time. But it's about building them very modular manner, and then all API interactive, interoperable system. So that is the net of the technology of what it's going to take to pull it together. And Tapan, if you can pick it up to kind of wrap up the story, please.
Yes, thank you, Thiag. As we walked you through this presentation, there were 4 key components that you look at: the customer experience, the data-driven approach that Murali talked about, and the omni-channel piece. And these are some of the key vital ingredients that are going to be needed as we think about how we want to engage with patients in an environment where technology is moving so fast and the consumerism healthcare as we know it today is going to continue to compel the organizations to adapt in how they go about deploying technology to drive innovation in their respective organizations. And what I want to leave the audience over here with is just some examples. When you think about the different technologies out there, we have everything around data analytics that we talked about, around IoT, which is really based around sensors, the wearables. You're going to continue to hear more and more about it. Today, it's in its very infancy. We talk about sensors and wearables that is collecting data, but we haven't quite figured out how to harness this data and make it into knowledge, into the point of care. And the next evolution, if you may, is really going to be in synthesizing and making it in a usable format for either a care provider or for a consumer. Cloud migration, if you had asked me 3-4 years ago if the healthcare industry was going to move in the direction, the general consensus was, customers, because of patient privacy, don't want to move in a cloud approach. But today that has changed quite a bit, where you see the healthcare industry really embracing a move towards cloud, keeping in mind the requirements, the regulatory requirements, whether it's HIPAA or high-tech requirements. Mobility is going to be a key avenue in the healthcare space, just by the nature of the industry, the nurses, the physicians who are always on the go, and looking at mobility, how mobility and end-to-end enterprise mobility can really enable different touch points for everyone in accessing care. We talked about patient privacy. That's not going to go away. Cybersecurity, which is going to be going to continue to be an issue, and we need to put better processes, better technologies in place to mitigate any breaches on the cybersecurity front. And not that we don't have enough buzzwords in the industry. Now we are hearing more and more about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, whatever we want to call it. And it will be interesting to see where this moves over the next 5-10 years in terms of transforming and impacting patient care. There are clearly certain benefits in certain parts of the ecosystem, but then there are also other potential ethical concerns that one would need to be aware of as you would look at employing an AI type of technology when it comes to providing care or when it comes to new drugs and so forth. And lastly, managed services. How do you take all these different endpoints, different technologies tied together in a meaningful way that can be consumed effectively? And as Thiag mentioned earlier, technology is only so good if it can drive value, and that's what we need to really focus on as we embrace these new technologies. At the end of the day, is it making a sustainable, meaningful change for the consumers of that technology? And that's what we had. We'll be happy to take any questions from the audience on the things that they heard and saw today, or any other topics as it relates to patient engagement.
Okay, I will pull up the questions here. One question is this built on Salesforce Health Cloud?
It is a similar concept. This is a custom platform, having done few solutions similar. This is a custom platform, so not as mature as a Salesforce Health Cloud, but there are some similarities.
All right, next question is, which technology do you see being embraced by customers as it relates to patient engagement?
Tapan, you want to take that, or?
Yeah, I think we covered some of that in our presentation. There are definitely several. When one would think about mobility, is going to be a key one. Healthcare is very much, to some extent, almost parallel to a retail industry where everything is being distributed via different endpoints that people can access information. So if I'm a consumer of healthcare, if I'm a patient or anyone in the family, we have different ways of accessing, prognosis to the treatment, side effects to the medication, different options in procedure if one has to go through. So mobility is one way where patients are accessing information. As a result, you see a lot of healthcare organizations developing platforms whereby you can access your health records, you can connect with your nurse, you can send a note to your physician, and you're going to continue to see the evolution of that. Another big move is going to be around the whole migration towards cloud, where the industry has really warmed up in terms of using that as a way to drive efficiency in the organization. And lastly, I would say analytics, data analytics. I would say we are in very early phase of analytics, even though there's a lot of talk around it in the industry. The real key is going to be taking the data and making it consumable in a useful, knowledgeable fashion at the point of care. That's going to be the real key, and I think that's going to be the phase 2 of the evolution that we're going to see in the analytics space. So I would say those are the three big areas that we are seeing in the healthcare industry.
Okay, next question. Where do you see the role of artificial intelligence or machine learning in the healthcare space?
There's a lot. I see a lot more of AI, machine learning happening in the R&D clinical trial type of use cases. I mentioned earlier about an example where customer service chatbot, which is not necessarily healthcare, but across the board, chatbots and customer service processes, we see that AI and machine learning already making a significant progress. And just coincidentally, Tapan and I, we were talking about how there's so much time and dollars invested by leading research organizations like MD Anderson, for example, with regards to cancer, making recommendations, therapy, diagnosis recommendations. There are some progress being made, but there's still, we still have to go ways before it's day-to-day or it is operational. Would you agree, Tapan? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I would definitely agree. I mean, right now it's the kind of the hot, exciting word in the industry and across multiple industries, and this whole buzz around, and is AI at some point going to replace having physicians around? I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. You're still going to need the human touch. You're still going to need the human aspect of delivering healthcare, which is, as we know, is a very personal part. But the AI will enable these care providers in accessing information very quickly, in being able to provide prognosis more efficiently, in enabling the pharma companies to mine the data more intelligently. So there are definitely parts where AI will bring its benefits, but like I said earlier, it's still pretty early on. We hear about other organizations talking about it. We all try to figure out where is that sweet spot where it can drive meaningful positive impact in the healthcare space. It's an exciting topic, to say the least, but I think we still have ways to go as it relates to artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Last question that we have is, how does a non-technical person get up to speed in data science and analytics?
So there are some really good courses in a very popular website called Coursera. So very recently I took a course just to understand what are the various types of algorithms in machine learning. It's called practical machine learning. It gives you a good overview of basic regression techniques, clustering algorithms, what are some of the examples and use cases. And even to make it a little bit more simpler, there are a couple of courses around doing exploratory data analysis in R and Excel. Excel for me is one of my favorite analytical tools, although nowadays it's kind of hard to bring in larger volumes of data and mine them. But those kind of courses really give a good overview to a non-technical person in data science.
Yeah, and we as a team, we are also working on doing more lunch and learns and local events just geared towards driving more understanding and familiarity of analytics. We also had a lunch and learn last month, and we'll have another one later this month. Maybe we can send some info about the potential courses available online, which can help accelerate awareness and learning analytics.
It'd be great. Let me check one more spot to see if anybody entered questions, perhaps maybe in the chat box. Nope, that is the last of our questions, guys. I'm so appreciative of you serving as a speaker for today's Lunch and Learn webinar, and to the attendees as well for attending. Any parting thoughts?
I think overall, it's an exciting place to be if folks are interested about healthcare, are interested about learning technology, how it's going to transform different parts of the healthcare system. It's a great time to be. And if you look at healthcare industry traditionally compared to some of the other industries, it's always been a little bit lagging in terms of adopting to technology. So I see the glass as half full over here. The opportunity in front of us is tremendous to harness these different aspects of technology and bringing it in an environment that is truly going to be transformative for everyone. And it's a great place to be. So if there are areas that have piqued your interest in today's webinar, I would encourage folks to seek and learn more. And this is going to be here with us for the next 10, 20 years. We're just getting started, and especially when you hear about the genomics and precision medicine, trying to find a cure for cancer, technology is going to play a big role in helping us get to where we need to go from a patient care and quality of care standpoint. So I'm excited personally to be part of this industry, and if there are any questions that people may have about anything that they've heard today, or we'd be happy to provide them. Our contact information is shown over here.
Great.